Hello and welcome to the webinar. My name is Alyssa and I will be your presenter today. I have with me Karina. She is a technical trainer here at Laserfiche, and she will be helping answer questions during the Q&A at the end of the presentation. Behind the scenes is Danielle and Grace. They are both monitoring the chat and Q&A boxes that are on the right-hand side of this webinar platform. First, a few housekeeping items. If you do have any technical issues or questions about the content at any point, send them over to the chat or Q&A box, and we can get them answered as they come up or during the Q&A at the end. Now, I recommend making the presentation full screen. I will be doing a live demonstration of the Laserfiche software, so I want you to be able to see all of the exciting features clearly. All right, let's jump into the webinar. This presentation and demo is for anyone who wants to learn all about the power of Laserfiche electronic forms, and we simply call it Forms. I will show you how truly transformative this product can be for your business processes, and especially for the automation of contract management. A quick look at what I'll be talking about today. First, I'll introduce you to Laserfiche so you can get to know who we are and what we do. I'll give an overview of eForms, and I'll talk about the wide range of uses of this software and the benefits it can bring to your organization. I'll then transition into a demo of Laserfiche Forms using a contract management process as an example. And this is just to showcase the functionalities of this solution in real time so you can see how it really works. Then we'll do a Q&A session with Karina at the end. So first I wanted to get you acquainted with some terminology that I'll be using throughout the presentation. The first one I have here is repository, and this is just a place for your folders and your documents. You can arrange and organize it however you want, and I'll show you what a Laserfiche repository looks like during the demo. Another term is metadata. This is essential information about a document. So this is just pieces of information like the status of a document, the date it was submitted, an ID number, information like that that can be attached to a document. And with metadata, you can see these pieces of information all in one place, so you can easily and quickly know what a document contains or know any administrative information about it. And if you look at the screenshot that I have up on the screen, this is just an example of what metadata can look like for an invoice. So in this case, I've clicked into one of the invoices on the left side, and then you can see all of its essential information on the right side pane there. And metadata helps you search for documents in a repository because you can search using that data. Lastly, I will be using the term task inbox in the demo. While we are going through process automation, the Laserfiche system will be automatically routing tasks to different people. And these tasks will go into a task inbox. So this is kind of like a to-do list of all of your tasks. All right, moving on. Here at Laserfiche, we are passionate about making your jobs easier by providing you with technology solutions that are user-friendly and easy to use. We like to take away the burden of repetitive, manual, and paper-heavy processes. And we do this by providing organizations with the tools to capture information, so helping you turn your paper into digital files, or to capture information digitally from the get-go using an electronic form. We have tools to help organize your documents. Laserfiche provides repositories where you can store your information centrally. And this makes it easy to collaborate on projects with having your information easily shared and accessible all in one place. But of course, with that comes the concern of security. But we've got that covered. With Laserfiche, you can set security rights for repositories and even certain folders within your repository. So you can give employees access to only the files that pertain to their jobs so that no one has access to information that they don't need to see. And we have tools to help automate your processes. We have process diagrams where you can create digital workflows to streamline your business processes. And today I will show you how to use forms to do all of these things. So what is this powerful tool that we call forms? Well, first and foremost, it allows you to design forms. You can replace your paper forms with professional and sleek digital ones to capture all kinds of information, from applications to requests to RSVPs. And you don't need any coding or technical background to make these forms. The interface that we have has a simple drag and drop feature that allows you to place fields right onto your canvas. And I don't come from a technical background. I actually have a marketing background. And I create all kinds of forms that we use here in the office. For example, I've made RSVP forms for our internal parties. We also have a form for marketing assistance requests, which sometimes gets assigned to me. And we have forms that our other departments use as well. For example, we have business travel requests, PO requests for accounting, and network access requests for IT, just to name a few. You can attach workflows to a form so that whenever a form is submitted, it can kick off a process of reviews and approvals. You can set up automated task routing and notifications to the relevant people who do need to review or approve or process whatever it is that is on the form. And this will essentially eliminate administrative tasks like manually carrying documents to each person's desk or mailing them out and waiting for the papers to come back and following up on approvals and things like that. With Laserfiche Forms, you can also get reporting tools that increase transparency of your processes. You can consolidate task management with centralized task lists. You can also track exactly how long each step in your process takes and identify any bottlenecks that way. And I will show you what this all looks like in the demo later on, along with other helpful reporting features. So you can use electronic forms for pretty much any business process, internal or external. Within your organization, you can build forms for employees to request vacation time, equipment maintenance, or to file IT tickets. For external purposes, you can use forms to make pretty much any kind of registration, application, or request process. And here on the slide are just a few examples of specific processes that you can automate with this technology. And today in our demo, we will be focusing on a contract management process. But even though we are focusing on this one, keep in mind that all of the functionalities that you'll see can be applied to many other processes. So keep in mind all the processes that your organization goes through and think about how those could be built out in forms as I take you through the software. So a big reason why we are focusing on this specific process is that if you do work with contracts, you'll know that there can be a lot of inefficiencies with a paper-based manual contract process. First of all, it's easy to lose track of where a contract is, whether it's figuring out what stage of drafting it's at, or pinpointing whose desk it's on, or even chasing down a person for a signature. With the manual system, it's really hard to keep track of these contracts. There can be inconsistent versions of a contract without a systematic approach to contract drafting and storage. It becomes very difficult to know which version is the most recent or what changes the previous party made to a document. So version control is very important in contract drafting because often there are a lot of people involved making many different changes to one contract. And with government and industry regulations, there are contractual obligations that you will need to comply with. For example, you might need to keep your contracts and destroy them after a certain amount of time. And when contracts are not stored in a central location, it's up to the individuals rather than the organization or an entire team to help monitor these deadlines. So it does make it very difficult to even keep track of these obligations. And of course, with so much paper flying around, you'll need storage, printing, and mailing needs that only grow over time. And what comes with that is growing operational costs. And not to mention all the time your employees are spending trying to track down missing contracts or digging through filing cabinets. It just becomes very inefficient and costly. So it is time to get rid of these inefficiencies with Laserfiche forms. Now, before I go into the demo, I wanted to give you a preview of the entire process that I will go through. We will start with an internal contract request that an employee will fill out, and this contract request will then go to the legal department, who will then do the initial drafting and authoring of the contract. And after they are done with it, it will be sent out for a string of reviews and approvals, both internal and external. And then towards the end, we will be collecting signatures, and then we will be able to execute the contract and archive it. And I would like to emphasize that we have configured these steps for the purposes of this demo, but the process designer is dynamic and can be configured to automate your organization's specific contract process or any other process in HR or accounting, etc. So I will be going into my demonstration environment now. All right. So here we will begin with our contract request form. And this is our first look at what a completed form can look like. It's polished and professional. You can drag and drop all of these different fields right onto the form, like the company, the contract title, all of these date fields here. These are all just dragged from a form designer and placed right onto here. So you really don't need any coding to have these fields for your forms. It's super easy to design. And you can configure each of these field titles to say whatever you want. You can decide on the size of an entry field, a character limit, whether it's a required field or not as indicated by this message. And this is so that a form cannot be submitted without a certain piece of information. And this is really beneficial because now you don't have to chase down information that should have been provided in the beginning. And a lot of business processes that we've seen actually include an entire step where somebody has to review the materials to even make sure that they have everything before anything happens. So with these field requirements, that whole step can just be eliminated. So I will start filling this out as an employee who is requesting this new contract to be drafted. And you can even set formatting requirements so that you can be sure that the information being submitted is in the correct format. So just to make sure you're even getting the correct information. For example, you can do this for email or phone number fields when you want to make sure that they submit a valid email address or phone number, both of which need to contain certain characters or a certain number of characters. And again, this just helps expedite the process because now you don't have to review the form for accuracy. And there are various types of fields that you can add to. like these drop-down menus that we have here, or you can have radio buttons for questions that only contain a certain set of answers. And you can also have bigger text boxes like this for the submitter to write in something. Let's do write in something there. And there are date fields that you see here. In addition to this, we also have pre-configured address fields. You can have submitters upload files like what you see here. And this comes in handy when, say, you're making an employment application form. You can have applicants attach their resumes into here. Or when you have any sort of request form like this one, you can add a supplemental document section where they can upload those. So all of the design elements that you see here can be changed to fit your needs as well. You can create this according to your organization's branding if you need to. You can change the background image. You can include a banner image or your company logo up here. Whatever you want this to look like, you can make it happen in the Forms Designer. All right, so let's go to these dates now. I want to put the effective date for this contract for, let's say, next month. And the expiration date, let's give it a year. And I wanted to mention that once I put the expiration date here, this will kick off another process where it can send automated email reminders to all the relevant stakeholders closer to this date. And it can send these notifying them that this contract is about to expire and maybe prompt them to start looking into renewing it or whatever you want the task to be. And this deadline date indicates when this contract needs to be finalized and signed before its effective date. So once I set this deadline, you'll see that the form has calculated how many days we actually have until this date. And this is just an Excel-like calculation that Forms does for you, making it convenient to see how much time you have for this contract to go through all of its reviews and approvals. So once we submit this form, it will start assigning these review tasks to the relevant people. Additionally, you can have the system route things into your repository. So it can create a new folder for this contract and file away all the documentation into this one centralized place. So it can put this form into it or anything that gets uploaded with this request, and all the subsequent documents that will be created in this contract process will all go to one place. And this way, all the documents associated with one project are not floating around in different places on your desktop or on someone else's desktop. And this allows for easy collaboration among team members because now everyone can access the documents they need all in one place. So let's go ahead and submit this request. Now, this will bring us to a thank you page, and you can configure this next page to have it say whatever you would like. It can display follow-up steps, when the submitter can expect to hear back. You can provide the option to even download the form that they just submitted. And this is just so that you can assure people that their form didn't just fall through a black hole. And if you think about when you buy something online, what's the first thing you usually do? You immediately check your email for a confirmation. So having this thank you page or setting up automated email confirmations when someone submits a request gives you that reliability because you're not leaving anyone in the dark. And I wanted to mention that having good service like this is important because, especially when you have external folks like clients or prospective students or employees, or even vendors or partners that you work with who are all submitting requests and applications into your organization. And you can go even further by setting up automated email updates to the submitter throughout the entire process. So whenever their request gets an approval or it moves on from one stage to the next, they can be notified that that happened. And so this way, the software can automatically keep them in the loop about the progress of their form. And this not only means that, you'll be getting less calls from people asking, where is my application? But it also tells your submitters, hey, your request is important to us and we are working on it. So this really just builds trust between you and the people you do business with. All right, so let's go and see what happened to that request that we just submitted. I am now going into my task inbox. So we are now switching from the requester's point of view to what the legal team will see, as well as what all the reviewers and approvers will see. So this is that to-do list that I talked about in the beginning. And for the sake of this demo, all the tasks will be routed to myself here, so we don't have to sign in and out multiple times and pretend to be different people. So all of your tasks will show up in the middle here. And I want to select this task to show you that you can reassign this task in case somebody is out of the office. You can edit the due date, and you can also change the priority to make sure someone completes this task on time. So let's go into this details pane here on the right side. In this summary tab, you can see all the important information you need all in one place here. You can quickly know when the due date is for each task. And if you have like 100 tasks in your inbox, you can just use this summary pane to have a quick glance at all of the deadlines, instead of having to actually click into each of the tasks to see that information. So this way you'll know which tasks are more urgent, so you can just get those out of the way first. And next to the summary tab, we have an action history tab. And in there, you'll see all of the steps that this contract has already gone through. Some contract processes can be long, which makes it really hard to keep track of what stage it's at. So with this action history view, there's no more hunting for that information because it's just all right here for you. So as you can see, the next step in this process is for someone on the legal team to review this request and create a first draft. So let's go ahead and open up that task. And I wanted to point out here on the right side, while you're inside this task, you can still see the summary and the action history. All right, so I'll review this request and see what this person needs. Then the legal team will then draft the contract and they can just upload it right into here, which is what we will do right now. So this is our first draft, and this particular contract is based off of a template, so I'll select yes. And I'm actually going to upload the template in here as well. And the reason for this is for version control. So what that means is that when this contract is saved into the repository, it will only create one copy with the version tracking attached to it. So the template that I just uploaded basically acts as a first version of the contract, and then you'll be able to see the changes that were actually made between the template and the first draft here. So now you don't, have to have multiple copies of the same contract that are, named things like contract version 2 final or version 2 final. Which makes it pretty hard to differentiate which one is the actual final version. And later on, I'll actually show you what this versioning tool does with these 2 copies that I just uploaded. For now, let's submit this task so these documents can get filed away and the process can move on to the next step. Now, what happens is that the draft is then sent to the team who reviews and continues drafting. In this case, we have pushed it out to the rest of the legal team to look over, and this task has now shown up in my inbox, so let's open it up. First, I would like to point out that the system has automatically generated an ID number for this contract, and this can be helpful for tracking, identifying, or searching purposes. So if we scroll down, we have included a direct link to view the contract. So I will click that, and it will take us into the repository where this contract folder lives. And I wanted to just say there that I was signed in to the repository earlier, but it has signed me out, and that is just an added security feature. If you are idle for too long, it can just sign you out to make sure that no one is sneaking around on your computer looking at things that they shouldn't be seeing. All right, so here is our repository. It has a very user-friendly and intuitive design. Your folder structure is here on the left side, and your documents are in the middle. And on the right side is your metadata. So here, you can quickly get that information about a document, and you can see it all in one place here. And in particular, I want to show you those 2 versions. So we can go into here and click the 2 versions, and these are some quick changes that you can see. And once I select those, I can actually go in and see what was changed. And what will happen now is that it will open this document in its native application, and in this case, it's Microsoft Word. And as you will see with the Word doc, it will show a redline version of all the edits that were made between the template and the first version. So here is where you can see that, and this change tracking actually happens in Word, and it's made possible through Laserfiche's out-of-the-box integration with Microsoft. And I wanted to show you another part of this integration. Up here, there is a Laserfiche tab, and I'll click into there, and this basically allows you to save Word documents directly into your repository. So if I just click this button, Save to Laserfiche, you can select where in the repository it will go to, and then it will just save it in there. And with this, you don't have to then save your Word doc onto your computer first and then import it into the repository. So it just eliminates that middle step, which is an added convenience. All right, so with this version tracking, there are no more multiple copies of multiple versions. It's just this one file with this version tracking attached to it. So going back to the process, I am someone on the legal team, and I have reviewed this first draft, and it looks good to me. So I will exit that, and I will go back to that task here, and then I'll just hit Ready for Approval and Review. Going back to the task inbox, in case you need a manager's review, or if you need the original submitter's review, before you release it for the official internal approval, you can create a task like this one. So we will open this up. In this case, we have a review approval by a manager. And then what they will see is almost the same as what the legal team saw. They can click right into here, this link to the repository where they can review the contract. And then they can enter in comments, and then they can just complete that preliminary review. So now we will have a string of approvals, and here we have 3 different reviewers, but you can design your workflow to have however many reviewers as you need. You can easily change the task name here to include the actual names of the people or the teams or departments within your organization. And just as a reminder, I am routing all these tasks to myself here, which is why you saw all 3 of these tasks show up into my inbox. But in reality, each of these tasks would be routed to different people. So I will start opening and just approving these tasks for this demo. And they can go into here, and we've included just a simple approve or reject option here. And also, in reality, if any of the reviewers are not satisfied with the contract, they can reject the task. And if one reviewer does reject it, it will go back to its drafting stage. So approval is required from all reviewers before the contract can move on. And when someone does reject it, the task will be taken away from the other 2 reviewers so that, you know, they don't spend extra time doing something that they don't need to. So Forms also allows simultaneous reviewing. As you saw, all of these tasks were triggered at the same time. And this way the system doesn't have to wait on one person to move the task onto the next step. And we all know that one person in the office who always just takes a little too long to complete something, and I know how frustrating it can be to wait on them. But with simultaneous reviewing, everyone can complete their task without having to wait for anyone else. And I talked about this earlier, but if a reviewer is out of the office, tasks can be reassigned just by clicking this button up at the top right-hand corner. Although I did want to mention, with the Laserfiche app, you can complete tasks on mobile. So even when you are out of the office, you can still get things done on the go, so your coworkers don't have to wait until you're back to keep these processes moving along. All right, so I will just approve this last task. So what we have next is, what if you have external reviewers who don't have access to your internal Forms tasks? What you can do is create a task called something like review by external party, like what we have here. And this can be assigned to an employee who will then send the contract to the external stakeholders. And when that person gets that approval back from those external people, they can go into this task and they can actually write into the comments box what happened with that approval. So we will say received approval by the person who approved it. And you can say, like, maybe it was via email or a phone call, and then we'll record the date. And then in here, you can include an upload function where you can upload the relevant email or anything like that. So I will go ahead and approve this external review. And this is so, now you have a record of any completed tasks that happen externally and that don't necessarily take place inside your Laserfiche system. And this next step that we have is kind of similar. It's another type of task that has been completed externally. So in this case, we have a review by a committee. So if you have activities like this in your process, other than reviews or approvals, things like phone calls, face-to-face meetings, site inspections, or interviews, this is a way that you can record that those happened in your forms process. So now these external activities can be documented in your action history and in your reporting. So I'll open this up, and then you'll see that in your action history, you can now see these external activities here. So we'll just do the same thing here and just record this was presented to the committee. And then we will say committee approves. Now is our final step of the contract management process, which is signatures. So I'll go ahead and open this task up. With this task, you have the option to collect signatures outside of Laserfiche if you do need those wet signatures. So you can do that, and then you can just upload in here a scanned version of the signed contract, which is what I just did. And then these signatory fields are just to confirm the signatures that are on the contract. So I'll just add whoever signed it. And this, entering the names into the form here, allows the software to then collect this information and maybe use it as metadata. So now you can actually search for contracts based on who has signed them. And this little add option here is a neat little feature. It just allows you to add extra lines if there are multiple entries for one field. So we'll just do that. And there is another option to collect digital signatures within Laserfiche, and this does happen through integrations with DocuSign and SignX. So let's scroll down, and there is a last section here called Compliance Review Management. And you can choose to include this, and it's just to ensure that your contracts comply with any new regulations or laws that may come into effect during the contract's lifetime. So entering information into this section can help automate those compliance reviews. So let's just go ahead and add a review. You can determine the date to initiate it, so we'll set it maybe in a couple of months, and then set a deadline for that. And then you can say, you know, what needs to be reviewed. And then so each of the reviews that get added here will then create a new compliance folder in the repository with the deadlines, a review status, and what should be reviewed, all attached to the files. And the system can then monitor these and trigger the review process as needed. So this means that it can send out email notifications and reminders to the compliance managers or whoever's in that role, and things like that. And now the last thing is to enter the execution date, which we've set for beginning of July. And then we are good to go. So I will complete the contract process now. And so I wanted to mention that throughout this process, you can set up emails so that whenever a team or an individual within your organization is assigned a task, so basically whenever it's their turn to review something, they can be sent an automated email just to notify them, you know, it's your turn to review. Now that our contract is finalized and signed and it's in effect, I would like to show you some reporting tools that are offered in Forms that provide very useful insight into your processes. So if you look up top, there is a Reports tab, and I will just go into there. So let's say I want to look at all of these new contract processes that are all currently in progress. So I'll just go ahead and click that process. And so here we have a list of all of the contracts that are currently going through that process that we just went through. And you can clearly see, what are the current stages each contract is at, who each of those are assigned to, and so on. And if you're more of a visual learner and would like to see data in graphs rather than in tables like this, you can certainly generate those very easily. Actually, I'll go ahead and just generate a report like that right now because I want to show you how easy it can be. So I'll just click this Summarize button that we have at the top right-hand corner. And let's just say I want to see all of the different types of contracts that we have currently in the works. And let's just say I want to see it in a pie chart. So I'll submit that, and here we go. So if you have, more than 2 types of contracts like what we have, this chart will have that information, and it can look more colorful for you. Now, a really neat feature of this reporting tool is that you have the ability to schedule these reports so that Forms can actually create these summaries automatically for you. And not only that, but it can also email these reports to you so that you don't have to constantly remember to go in here and check for these reports. And you can do that just by going up at the top right-hand corner and hitting Create Schedule, and you can just set your frequency and set up your email right in here. So let's get out of that. And then next to scheduling is a download button where you can just directly download this report straight from Forms. And next to that is a security setting where you can share this report with whoever needs to see it. So now let's go back to that list of all the new contracts that are currently in progress. Here we are. So now let's say I wanted to see the action history of one of these contracts. So I'm going to just click the first one. And here I can see all the steps that this new contract has already gone through and which step it's currently at. The most recent activity is at the bottom here. So we see that this one in particular is currently in the drafting stage and authoring stage, and it's assigned to someone in legal. And then you can see all of the past activities above that. What I would really like to point out here is that you can actually see the start date and the finish date of each of these tasks, and it will calculate the duration of how long it actually took for each of these tasks to be done. And so with this information, you can now analyze maybe there is one particular step in this process that always takes a little bit longer than the other steps. And this allows you to clearly see bottlenecks in your processes. So you can know that maybe some steps need to be improved somehow, or maybe some steps can just be completely taken out. So with these reporting functions, you have direct insight into the health of your processes with historical and live data like this. All right, so these are all reports on the performances of your processes. You can also get reporting on how your team is doing and how they are operating with these tasks in Forms. And I would like to show you that right now. We will go back to our Reports tab, and then here we have an Operational Reports, and I'll click into there. And I want to look at the Contract Management team And this will have information on everyone who is involved in this process, so not necessarily everyone on one department. So here, supervisors have a view of all the contracts that are currently being worked on, who is working on them, and if anything is in danger of being overdue. So on the left here is an overview of your task statuses, and it will tell you if there are any tasks that are due soon or if any of them are already overdue. And you are able to just click right into here to see which contracts those are. So if you see one with a deadline coming up within the next 24 hours, and you see that it's still in its drafting stage, you will be able to see who it's currently assigned to, and then you can maybe nudge them a bit or assign it to someone else. And this just makes it way easier instead of having to call everybody up to figure out where this contract is at. So on the right-hand side here is information about the duration of your tasks. And this further informs you of any particular tasks that take a long time to get done. And you can easily investigate, what are the bottlenecks for these particular top longest tasks here. And I just wanted to note that the reason why all of these numbers are so large is that in this demo environment, we do have some processes that are currently still in progress from like 2016, so that's why these task durations are so long. And this dashboard also has predictive analytics. So if you go to this drop-down menu here and you click likely to be overdue, you can see how likely it is that these tasks are to be overdue, and you can see the percentages here on the right side. And so with this information, you can preemptively take some action in maybe moving these along quicker. All right, I'm going to scroll down, and this is information about individual team members. So we can see how many tasks each person has, and it will show you who has the most tasks assigned to them at this moment. In this insights box here on the bottom, it will tell you who has the heaviest or lightest workload. And this can come in handy if you are a supervisor or a project manager who is assigning incoming tasks. And you can very quickly see who is the best person to give those to. Or if you see someone that has an overwhelmingly heavy task load, you can redistribute that work. Or on the other hand, if you notice that one of your team members is looking a little bored lately, you can definitely check this report and you'll see why. So all in all, this operational dashboard helps you manage entire processes in the context of individual tasks and team members. And with these insights, you can make sure that your team is working in the most efficient way possible. So that ends our demonstration. I will now go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Alrighty. So what have we learned today? We have seen the tremendous benefits of having electronic forms. We saw the automation of form submission, routing, and review. I showed you how to digitally approve forms, which makes any business process move very quickly. With centralized task management, you can now better manage your workloads. And now you know how to measure success and increase accountability with configurable reporting tools. And so with a bird's eye view of your processes and your teams, you can drive continuous intelligent improvement within your entire organization. So if you would like to see more of Laserfiche forms or if you would like to learn more about our software suite, or even if you want to see how any other process works in Laserfiche, schedule a demo with us. Danielle is sending out a link to the chat box right now, and this will take you to a form where you can schedule a demo. My contact info is on the slide there, so you can also reach out to me with any follow-up questions or demo requests or just to say hi. Yeah, thank you for joining us. So have a great rest of the day, and I hope to see you back here at another webinar soon.